Welcome to San Sebastian del Oeste, a town so beautiful that Elizabeth Taylor almost bowed out the entire town. Hello folks, it's another beautiful morning here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico in the state of Jalisco. We are going to be taking you out into the mountains today. We are going to a Pueblo Magico, a magical town of San Sebastian del Oeste. So come along for the adventure. It's going to be fun. We're going to learn about colonial Mexico, and so I think you're going to like it. Thank you for joining us. San Sebastian del Oeste is another one of those towns that you've probably never heard of in Mexico, but me and the Mexican government thinks you should. And while the Mexican Board of Tourism is not sponsoring this video, but they should, I suggest you go and visit. We went to the Marina here. We're over by the Marina where the cruise ships are, and now we're transferred into a bigger bus. So we went from a small van to a bigger bus.
And then we're going to leave the main road to go east all the way to the mountains. We're going to drive all the way to San Sebastian. But non-stop. We're going to make a couple stops on the way before we get to the altitude.
San Sebastian del Oeste is part of the Pueblo Magico program. The Pueblo Magico program was started in Mexico because a lot of the towns were dying due to immigration. Some of these towns were of significant cultural importance, so a program was put into place to protect these towns by promoting tourism and jobs and encouraging people to stay in these towns in Mexico. The road to San Sebastian del Oeste is beautiful, but it is a long and very windy road. It used to take longer to get to this town, but in 2005 a bridge was made that made a 6-hour trip only 2 hours. By the bridge, we made our first stop of the tour, which was to go to Hacienda San Sebastian. In this video, you can hear me say Hacienda. Literally translated, Hacienda means ranch. But the word Hacienda comes from the old days when Mexico was a Spanish territory. Haciendas were ranches that were built specifically to process 1 or 2 raw goods that could then be sold back to Spain. In the case of Hacienda Sebastian, they make tequila. Tequila comes from distilling the agave plant. On the tour, they show you all the steps on how you would make tequila. But I don't drink alcohol, which, if you didn't know, tequila is one of the strongest alcoholic drinks there is in Mexico. So I just had fun looking at the hacienda itself, which was kind of a cool Spanish building.
That was only built there since the 60s. The original entrance is a little further down the road. You'll have to move it to that area because we needed more land for the runway. The original entrance used to be right here. You can still see the pillars to the end of the hacienda. Behind this wall is the runway.
The next thing we did was to go into town, and along the way we saw the old airport. The old airport wasn't much to look at, but since only private planes use it now, but apparently back in the day, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton used this airport to get to San Sebastian del Oeste back in the 1960s. It didn't look like that big of a runway, so I'm glad I didn't have to take a plane to get up here.
Bienvenidos San Sebastián del Oeste, Pueblo Mágico.
Right where the town starts, we went to another hacienda that had coffee. I also don't drink coffee either, so I can't say I was too interested in the explanation of how they made the coffee, but the grounds, yes, I said that, were lovely. One thing I did find interesting was the Mexican Opal. I have never heard of it, but the lady showed me the rock where it comes from. Apparently what happens is that when silicate and water ferment over a long time, it creates these stones that can then be polished. The most common color is this bright orange, but the lady told me that the most valuable ones were the translucent ones. She let me know that the heyday for Mexican opals were from 1965 to 1975. But the price on some of those stones were still, even though they were beautiful, were just too high for me. So I was okay with just admiring them. After checking out the opals, we walked further into town and crossed this really cool stone bridge. The bridge is from the 1700s. Obviously it was built really steady to last that long. The best part of the bridge was right on the other side was Comedor Lupita, and that is where we had our lunch. Our lunch was comida corrida, which means it's a fixed menu. There are some alternative options for vegetarians, but it was all local food. After lunch, we went into town starting at the Cultural Center, where we saw this mural that gave a visual to what the town was all about. At this point, things got hard for some people in our tour because the streets went up and down and were all cobblestones. Our guide told us that we were free to explore the town for a few hours. Walking farther into town, I noticed several things. First of all, the buildings except for the church were all white with a red border. I learned that the big red border on the bottom of a building is called a guardapolvo, and is used to hide the discoloration from the dust. The second thing I noticed was there was not many cars, but I did notice this guy. My guide let me know that because of the Pueblo Magico program, this town was saved, but you usually only see children or older people in the town because most of the young adults go to the other cities to find jobs. We officially made it to the town square. There's our church, and there's our plaza. It's a small town, so can't expect much. All the adults that you see in this town are visitors. You only have old people and young people in this town because all the work is down in Aguascalientes. So there's that to consider. They have nice little music here playing, but I'm gonna have to cut out because it's probably copyrighted music. In the center of the town, there was a beautiful plaza with a bandstand and a cute church. The church was interesting because it was painted blue, which is a color I don't associate normally with a lot of churches, but it really worked for this one. After visiting the church, I found an ice cream shop. They are called nieverias, which translates to snow places. This ice cream shop was a very quaint one because it had a lot of old things in there, and I liked this really old phone and this really old lock that was on display. What made me the most excited was the strawberries with cream. What they do is they freeze the strawberries in a little carton, and then they put cream on top. It is simple, but it's very yummy. Show off your strawberries, Denise.
What?
Show your strawberries. Very good. Well, that pretty much sums up everything we did in San Sebastian del Oeste. Hope you enjoyed the journey. Luckily for us, Elizabeth Taylor did not buy out the town, so if you're in the area, like in Puerto Vallarta or Guadalajara, I highly suggest you visit this town as a day trip. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.